I'm catching up on some of my sewing.
Amongst the timeless classics of children's entertainment lies The Flintstones, a beloved cartoon filled with joyous antiques. However, behind the laughter lies a world ripe with complexities and darker undertones, often unseen by younger viewers. As children stumble upon these nostalgic episodes, adults unlock a trove of subtle nuances and themes, revealing a different layer to Bedrock's iconic family. Let's dive into these themes then, shall we? But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
Is that you, Fred?
Domestic abuse played for laughs in The Flintstones. The portrayal of domestic abuse in a comedic light within The Flintstones is indeed a complex and controversial aspect of the show. The series, inspired by The Honeymooners, adapted the dynamics between Fred and Wilma Flintstone from the original show's character Ralph and Alice Cramden. While the threat of violence from Ralph was a recurring gag in The Honeymooners, The Flintstones took a unique spin on this, often showing Wilma physically retaliating against Fred's antiques. The reversal of roles from the original series, where the threat of violence was verbally expressed by the husband but never enacted, is a significant departure. In The Flintstones, Wilma's reactions often involve physical actions such as hitting Fred or locking him out of the house, resulting in humorous moments for the audience. The show's choice to portray Wilma as the primary physical aggressor while Fred merely threatens violence is a departure from the typical portrayal of domestic abuse. It's an inversion of traditional gender norms, depicting a wife who takes charge and delivers physical punishment, often played for laughs. This portrayal raises complex questions about gender dynamics and the acceptability of violence in a comedic context, especially in a show primarily aimed at children. While the intent might have been purely comedic, it's important to recognize the potential impact of such representations, especially considering the influence cartoons have on young audiences' perceptions of relationships and behavior. The Flintstones' use of domestic disputes as comedic elements, while common in the show's era, would likely be approached differently in today's more sensitive cultural landscape. Understanding the context of the time when the show aired is essential when analyzing its portrayal of such themes. Adult humor in shows meant for younger audiences. It's fascinating how shows like The Flintstones managed to sneak in adult humor cleverly into content meant for younger audiences. The creators mastered the art of slipping in jokes that would fly right over the heads of kids but extract chuckles from adult viewers who caught on to the innuendos. Take that costume shop scene for instance. Barney, looking for something to make him look taller, triggers Fred's witty yet risky response about an additional head. Barney's retort about needing 3 heads is a classic example of a joke that tiptoed around the adult concept, leaving younger viewers oblivious to the underlying humor. The TV reception scene with the antenna inspection is another gem. Fred innocently inquiring about the condition of Barney's antenna becomes a playful innuendo when Barney flips it around with a sly grin. It's these subtle wordplays that added an extra layer of amusement for the grown-ups watching. Then there's the sly reference to adult films in Fred's final fling. The X-ray joke cleverly placed on the idea of an X-rated picture without being explicit, letting the adults catch the nod to something more mature while keeping it innocent for the younger audience. The genius lies in the writer's ability to craft jokes that are harmless on the surface but carry a playful wink to adult themes. These instances not only showcase the wit and creativity of the creators, but also engage the older viewers, making The Flintstones a show that had something for everyone, regardless of age. It's remarkable how they navigated the strict network standards of the time, while injecting these subtle, cheeky moments for the adults in the audience.
All right, pack of Winstons, please.
Oh, you like them Winston cigarettes, huh, Mr. Flintstone?
Surprising era when The Flintstones had a cigarette tag. It's truly a bizarre and unsomething part of television history when iconic characters like the Flintstones were used to promote cigarettes. Back in the early days of television, advertising was a wild west of sorts, with companies vying for airtime to promote their products. The Flintstones, being a primetime show, became a prime target for advertising, and unfortunately, Winston saw this as an opportunity. Picture this: families gathered around their TV sets, eagerly waiting for the escapades of Fred, Wilma, Barney, and Betty, only to be bombarded by cigarette ads featuring their beloved characters. Winston Cigarettes decided to sponsor the show, and in return, the Flintstones became the faces of their brand. It's almost surreal to think about Fred Flintstone himself praising the virtues of smoking while puffing away on a Winston. The lengths to which advertising went in those days were quite shocking. The characters weren't just subtly associated with cigarettes, they were actual tags after the show where they were endorsed smoking, mentioning how Winston sponsored a cartoon. Barney and Fred, characters adored by children, were essentially promoting a product that we now know is harmful to health, and it's uncomfortable to imagine the impact that might have had on young viewers. Thankfully, as times changed and awareness about the dangers of smoking grew, the Flintstones eventually moved away from promoting cigarettes to endorsing healthier products like Welch's grape juice. It's a relief to know that the legacy of the Flintstones is no longer entangled with the promotion of such harmful substances, but it's a stark reminder of how advertising and entertainment were intertwined in ways that we find quite terrible today. Exploring the disturbing depths of suicide in the show's narrative. The Flintstones was indeed a pioneering show, tackling complex issues in a way that was exceptional for its time. Barney and Betty Rubble's struggle to conceive was a bold narrative move, reflecting the challenges many couples faced, but rarely discussed openly in the 1960s. The emotional roller coaster they experienced in trying to adopt Bam Bam was equally groundbreaking and emotionally charged. The weight of bureaucracy and the uncertainty of whether they'd be able to keep Bam Bam took a severe toll on Barney. His hopelessness, pushed to the brink by the complexities of adoption, led him to a disturbing moment on the bridge, contemplating a final tragic act. This instance where Barney was on the verge of ending his life was a surprisingly dark turn for a children's show even by today's standards. The show's willingness to address such emotional struggles was ahead of its time. It attempted to normalize conversations around fertility, adoption, and the psychological impact of these challenges on individuals and couples. Barney's emotional pain was a reflection of the deep emotional scars caused by societal pressures and personal struggles. However, the show also offered a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. Barney's rescue by Fred symbolized the importance of friendship, support, and the potential for light even in the bleakest moments. It was a powerful message for viewers, emphasizing the significance of reaching out and offering help to those in distress. Shocking plotline of sheltering a genocidal fugitive. That's quite the unexpected twist for a classic show like The Flintstones. Imagine Fred and Barney, your friendly Stone Age pals, suddenly caught up in a sci-fi drama with a genocidal fugitive. It's like a wild crossover episode that nobody saw coming. The Great Gazoo's arrival is a huge shift in the show's tone. The idea of a tiny green alien showing up in bedrock feels completely out of place, almost as if the writers threw darts at a board to choose the new direction. The fact that only Fred and Barney can see him adds this layer of absurdity, making them seem crazy to everyone else, especially when Gazoo conveniently disappears whenever others are around. But it's the shock factor that really hits hard. The whole concept of sheltering a character who's essentially a universe-threatening criminal takes the show to a darker, more morally ambiguous place. It's a far cry from the typical lightheartedness of the Flintstones. Instead of turning the alien over to the authorities, Fred and Barney opt to befriend him, blurring the lines between harboring a fugitive and having an intergalactic buddy comedy. This twist could have sent fans reeling, sparking debates about the ethics of the characters' actions. Are they enabling Gazoo's potentially destructive powers? Are they just in denial about the severity of his crimes and the idea that Gazoo might not even be real, suggesting a collective hallucination or gas leak, adds an unsettling psychological layer to the storyline. In a way, it's a bold move to inject new life into a show that might have been struggling creatively. Whether it's a stroke of genius or a head-scratching moment, this shocking plotline certainly would have made for one of the most talked about arcs in television history. Stone Age Exploitation, the Flintstones' controversial treatment of animals. The Flintstones indeed created a whimsical Stone Age-inspired world fused with modern elements, but its treatment of animals has raised eyebrows. The show's innovative blend of prehistoric and contemporary technologies often relied heavily on the exploitation of animals for everyday tasks. Hanna-Barbera's animated world showcased a shocking amount of carefreeness towards animals. In this Stone Age society, creatures from the prehistoric era were not just pets or companions, they were co-opted into the very fabric of daily life. The whimsy of using dinosaurs as household appliances or vehicles, such as employing a stegosaurus as a fire truck or a mammoth's trunk as a faucet, masked a troubling theme of exploitation. These creatures were reduced to mere tools providing services without consent or consideration for their well-being. What makes this portrayal particularly controversial is the implied intelligence and awareness of these animals. They weren't depicted as mindless beasts, but rather sentient beings capable of understanding and expressing discontent about their exploitation. Episodes often showed animals voicing their grievances, indicating a recognition of their unfair treatment. The juxtaposition of their intelligence with their subservient roles added a layer of discomfort to the comedic narrative. The show's use of animals in such capacities painted a picture of normalized exploitation, where the line between convenience and ethical treatment was heavily blurred. While the Flintstones aimed for lighthearted entertainment, it unintentionally highlighted a controversial aspect of human history, the historical exploitation of animals for our benefit, drawing parallels to modern-day ethical concerns about animal rights and welfare. Rocky Riddles. Do they feast on their pet? It's a curious and somewhat bizarre dynamic in the world of the Flintstones. The opening credits set the stage with Fred Flintstone finishing up a hard day's work at a quarry using a dinosaur as a living, breathing piece of machinery. The poor creature serves as both a beast of burden and a substitute for modern construction equipment. Fred then slides down the dinosaur's back in a way that doesn't seem comfortable for the poor creature, showcasing a peculiar relationship between humans and these prehistoric creatures. However, the confusion intensifies when we meet Dino, the Flintstones' pet dinosaur. Dino is the embodiment of a family dog, affectionate, playful, and always ready with a bark or a lick. He lives inside the Flintstones' home, a privilege not granted to most other dinosaurs in their world. Even the pet saber-toothed tiger is relegated to sleeping outside, highlighting the inconsistency in how these ancient animals are treated. The true head-scratcher comes during the end credits when Fred takes the family out for a meal after a drive-in movie. They pull up to Bronto Burgers and Ribs, a restaurant that boasts its signature dish, Brontosaurus ribs. These ribs are so massive that they tip over Fred's car. What makes this scene terrifying is that Fred, who works alongside dinosaurs all day and even has one as a beloved pet, is seemingly about to devour a creature of the same type. The disconnect between treating these animals as both companions and food sources is stark and, frankly, a bit unsettling. To make matters more perplexing, Fred's choice of dining spot creates an awkward situation for poor Dino. Imagine the pet dinosaur witnessing his human family about to devour ribs from a creature much like himself. It's a stark contradiction in the show's portrayal of the relationship between humans and dinosaurs, leaving viewers with a sense of puzzlement and perhaps a tinge of discomfort at the implications of such a feast. Marvelous verdict. While children revel in the whimsical charm of Fred, Wilma, and the gang, adults uncover a treasure trove of hidden messages and societal commentary within the cartoon Stone Age setting. The Flintstones stands as a timeless testament, offering something unique for every generation, showcasing that Bedrock's yabba-dabba-doo moments can be entirely different when seen through grown-ups' eyes. If you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.